Yes, I'm Lisa Williams, and thank you for allowing me to come talk. We humans have had the luxury of being able to take resource after resource from the earth to power our growth as a species, trusting that the earth would heal herself. And she did for a long time. Unfortunately, we're now at a crossroad as the earth is being pushed beyond her capacity to heal herself. We know this because a recent UN report told us that millions of animals are set to go extinct, and many in the coming decades, if we continue doing things as we've done in the past. JEA, as a major producer of energy, will have a major impact on whether the rest of us will live in a habitable world or one in turmoil. We all know that the continued reliance on fossil fuels produces pollution, sickening many, and carbon, leading to climate change. Since JEA is the biggest industrial contributor of both carbon and pollution in this city, we are dependent upon JEA to do the right thing. And renewable energy is the right thing. It's getting cheaper than fossil fuels, and already many utilities are making the switch. As a religious person, I believe that God put us on this earth to take care of the earth and the creatures therein. So far, we're not doing too well there. But whether you're religious or not, we all want this world to be here and livable for our grandchildren and generations to come. So please help, not hinder this goal. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Lisa. Logan Cross.
My name is Logan Cross. I'm the chair of the Sierra Club of Northeast Florida, and I'm also a San Marco resident, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to you all today. My professional career largely focused on strategic planning, so I have extensive experience in visioning, setting goals, planning, and then eventually assessment to see if you've accomplished those goals. My advice to planners was always and continues to be, don't set goals that you can't accomplish, but do set goals that are aspirational and lead to improvement. Set goals that drive positive change and improvement. So I have to agree with one of the board members who made a statement at the close of your last meeting that JEA leadership should not make goals that they have trouble delivering on. But JEA should not prevent JEA from committing to substantive change and improvement. As a reminder to you all regarding goals, goals are not legally binding, nor do goals put the organization in jeopardy, legal jeopardy or vulnerability. What goals do, though, is reflect the vision of the organization, the aspirations, and the priorities of the organization. They provide guideposts for positive change and improvement. What goals do not, let's say, in the not too distant future, you all will be presented with JEA's next electrical integrated resource plan. The question that remains to be answered is, what will that plan reflect about JEA? Will it reflect an organization that is committed to providing clean, renewable energy for its customers? Will it provide a plan that has realistic yet achievable goals that push the organization to new levels? Or will it reflect a plan that is where the organization doubles down on its commitment and dependence on fossil fuels for energy generation by building a new natural gas plant that, by the way, would be a 30 to 40-year investment and possibly a stranded asset before the end of its lifespan? Also, will it reflect an organization that retains its dependence on a highly polluting fossil fuel coal? In sum, I want to say that I'm very hopeful that it is the prior scenario, but I am fearful that it is the latter scenario. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, sir. Lori Ann?
Hi, good morning. My name is Lori Ann Santa Maria. I'm here as a JEA customer. Thank you for allowing me to speak. As I was preparing my talking points for this morning, I was reflecting on the impact that energy has had on my own family. And I can tell you that my great-grandmother grew up in the rural mountains of West Virginia. She had no running water and no electricity. Most of the men in my grandfather's generation were coal miners, and literally their hard work powered the lives of their children. And my brothers and I were born here in Florida. And I can tell you I've only had 2 hours without electricity since I've been here, and that was 20 years ago in Hurricane Wilma. And I know that that kind of reliability doesn't happen by accident. The generations before us left us a legacy. Their investments in our energy infrastructure allowed our economy to grow and our families to thrive. And now it's our turn to make a choice that will impact the next generation. The passing of the IRA allows for $3.5 billion in investments to be made in our national energy supply. These investments will decrease the levelized cost of energy for renewables. LCOE for solar and storage will be less than LCOE for legacy technologies, including natural gas. And I've no doubt that that's been an important factor in the IRP discussion that you've already had, but I urge you to explore it even further. Your decisions will impact more than the monthly bill for today's ratepayers. The corporate world is rapidly moving towards clean energy. And here's just a partial list of the companies that operate in Jacksonville whose corporate entities have made public net zero commitments. Citigroup, Amazon, Bank of America, Deutsche Bank, IKEA, Johnson & Johnson, KPMG, Comcast, TIAA, Ernst & Young, Coca-Cola, Kraft Heinz, you get it. The list is long, and it's really too important to be ignored. So a few weeks ago, I was speaking with the VP of Economic Development in a neighboring county here in North Florida, and he told me that 10 years ago, only 5% of the companies that were looking to relocate were asking about energy mix. And today, 100% of companies are asking that question. They want to know what percent renewables are in their portfolio. Businesses are moving towards net zero because their shareholders and their customers are demanding it. If we don't act quickly to ensure a clean, reliable source of energy here in Jacksonville, we need to be concerned that these companies will go to any of the 13 other cities in Florida that have already made net zero commitments. If these businesses leave, young families in the region may be forced to leave as well. But the opposite is also true. We can choose to embrace a clean energy economy. What an exciting time to be in the energy industry, truly. The technology for renewable energy is available at scale, and the economics finally make sense. As you wrap up the IRP process, I ask that you think about your own legacy, improving lives and building community. Let's continue to make Jacksonville a place where our children and their children can thrive. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori Ann. Josh?
I want to thank the board for the opportunity to speak with you all today. My name is Josh Melko, and I'm an associate professor at the University of North Florida. Last year, I was on sabbatical and worked in the United States Senate on energy policy. And so I'm intimately familiar with a lot of the policies that I worked on that end up being part of the Inflation Reduction Act. It's really historic legislation that can catalyze this country's transition to clean energy. During my work, I met with a variety of stakeholders, including representatives from the American Public Power Association, a trade group that JEA is a part of, and I learned how important it was that municipal utilities have access to clean energy incentives like tax credits. Admittedly, I was not thinking about JEA at the time or even this community, but I'm now so grateful that when the Inflation Reduction Act was signed into law, it included provisions to make renewable energy tax credits available to public power entities like JEA for the first time, so that my community can leverage these historic investments in renewable energy. So I come to you today as a concerned citizen and JEA customer, pleading that you do all you can to access these new resources, to make sure our city is able to reap some of the benefits, and not take a wait-and-see posture while other cities charge ahead of us. Specifically, I hope JEA is incorporating the 10-year renewable energy tax credits, both production tax credits and investment tax credits, into the scenarios it is evaluating as part of the IRP. These tax credits substantially change the calculus for investing in energy generation, lowering the price of a given project by 30 to 50%. I also want to take this time to highlight a less well-known provision of the Inflation Reduction Act, one that prioritizes communities that have historically relied on coal jobs and the associated economic activity. The Department of Energy's Energy Infrastructure Reinvestment Program provides $250 billion in low-cost, federally backed loans to projects that retool, repurpose, or replace energy infrastructure. JEA could use this program to finance the retirement of a coal plant, to clean up coal ash, and then turn the development of the site into something else that spurs local economic growth, while also setting up renewable energy projects elsewhere. Or JEA could use the funds to refinance other high-cost debt and equity to free up capital. Regardless, the EIR program was intentionally designed to be flexible in order to meet the local needs of a community like Jacksonville. This city is a strong candidate for this program, but JEA must seek out these funds from the Department of Energy and work with the city of Jacksonville and other local partners to see it through. Otherwise, these funds go to other communities, as will the economic benefits. The policy manual for JEA's Board of Directors states in part that JEA exists to provide clean, safe, reliable, and reasonably priced electric service while remaining environmentally sound. So let's do just that and act boldly at this time of historic federal investment in clean energy in order to meet the board's own policies of clean electric service that's environmentally sound. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh. John Burr.
Yeah, good morning. My first recommendation would be you hire Josh as a consultant. But I came also to speak in support of renewable energy. I just wanted to run past you what Florida Power and Light has committed to in terms of clean energy generation. And I'm reading here from a news release that Florida Power and Light put out last June. Their program is called Real Zero. As part of Real Zero, FP&L's goal is to significantly accelerate the transformation of its generation mix, reaching 36% decarbonation by 2025, 52% by 2030, 62% by 2035, and 83% by 2040, culminating in a 100% decarbonization by no later than 2045. Renew Jax this is more ambitious than what Renew Jax is asking you to consider, which is 100% by 2050. Florida Power and Light plans to reach these interim targets through further modernization of its generation fleet in Florida, which will be comprised of a diverse mix of solar, battery storage, existing nuclear, green hydrogen, and other renewable sources. In another part of the release, they state that the economic studies they've done indicate that reaching next era's energy real zero goal could create up to 150,000 jobs and add $15 billion in annual gross domestic product in Florida through 2045. This is real, guys. These are real goals that they've come up with, Florida Power and Light. This isn't, the Sierra Club and the Nature Conservancy, asking you politely to do something. This is a hard-nosed industry that generates power like you do. And this is what they plan to do. So, please, as you go forward with considering your energy mix this spring, please take into account what other utilities, including one right down the road, are doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Any comments that we have missed, or do we have anybody on?
We're still not online.
No online? Is there anybody?
No, it's not, we're all live today, is what we are.
Okay, so we're live today. So with that, I'll hand it to Jay for his comments.
So
I think there's more comments.
we're commenting, that's in the rate hearing.
That's a rate hearing.
Okay, got it.
So first of all, I want to, so I'll say thank you for you all being here, being a part of this board, and being willing to serve. I appreciate that very much. We're doing something a little bit different here today. There's a video that is running in the background that is to remind us that part of what we are focused on and working on is our inside of JEA's excellent exceptional work culture is volunteerism. So our employees are dedicated to making Jacksonville a better place to work, live, and play. This goes hand in hand with deepening customer and community engagement. So we do more than just serve utilities. We are supporting the community in lots of ways. Our employees, most recently this video has shown some folks from the West Side Service Center, South Side Service Center, and Pearl Street who were building benches and raised planters out of recycled electric poles, utility poles, at Windy Hill Elementary School the last of January. It's a pretty big project, took a lot of people, from cutting the poles into usable lumber and designing and building the benches and planters. Arborists in our vegetation management group helped with the selection of plants. The Pearl Street folks donated some wheelbarrows and tools. And then some of our folks spent time moving, digging, mulching, cleaning, to make that a better place for the students that come each day. So I wanted to recognize and let our teams know and let you all know that we are doing all of those things, including focusing on more than just the utility services. And before I go on, I want to call on Ray Marshall. I think each of you is aware and saw that we had a fire that occurred at our Northside generating plant yesterday. The only thunder I will steal from her is no one was hurt from that event, but I would like to ask Ray to give the board an update on, as we know it now, still relatively early, what we know and what's happening out there.
Thank you, Jay. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, board. As Jay said, things are still being evaluated and assessed, but this is the latest information. So yesterday at approximately 2 p.m., staff noticed that there was smoke, fire on the fuel conveyor belt at our Northside generating station. So we called JFRD, and personnel were evacuated. At approximately 4 p.m., the fire was approximately 90% contained and completely out by 5 p.m. I will note that the conveyor belt, which comes from Blunt Island to Northside Generating Station, was not operating at the time. But the conveyor belt, it does take pet coke, coal, what have you, our solid fuel. The replacement belt is on site, but the rollers were also damaged, and we are anticipating a 1 to 2 week period to have the belt working again. The belt was run over the weekend in anticipation of a shipment that was coming in that arrived this morning. And staff is assessing alternatives because the belt is not currently operating in order to take the pet coke that came this morning and take it over to the generating station. We are fine, at least for the next week as far as fuel is concerned, and are assessing the root cause of why the fire occurred. What I really, really want to say is to thank and acknowledge the staff at Northside that noticed the fire, and especially JFRD, who were immediately on the site and took care of the situation. So that is assessment. That is the latest on this, and be glad to take any questions.
Any questions from the board?
This was in the fence line, right? So it's inside our property?
Yes, it was approximately on the last 200 feet. The belt is about 3,000 feet long, and it was about the last 200 feet.
On our property, inside our fence, and we're investigating the cause that we believe was internal to the working of the conveyor.
Right, that's where I was going. Thank you.
I want to thank you, Ray, and I want to reiterate the support that we had from JFRD, which we have all the time, every day, there's times when we are interacting with other groups within the city, but in particular yesterday during emergencies. So I want to pass that on through Councilman Boylan. So thank you for all of the teams that are doing all the work that they're doing every day. We're at the last day of February, and so February is Black History Month. This month we recognized in the National Black History Month, the theme was Black Resilience. We hosted a panel last week that I say we hosted a panel. Ray Marshall was actually the host of the panel and helped facilitate a panel with Whitney Meyer, who is the Chief Community Impact Officer with the Jaguars, Dr. Tammy Hodo, who is the President of All Things Diverse, and Dr. Charles Moreland, who is the Deputy Chief Administrative Officer at the City of Jacksonville. It took a lot of time and effort to make this work. We had probably 70 or 80 folks in the room and 120 or 30 people online, and they were able to participate, so I appreciate that. The focus that we have on being sure that we are since diverse is part of our values. It really falls within the respect area of our values, and the words underneath that is we treat others with courtesy and respect, seeking diverse perspectives and helping to bring out the best in everyone. And I appreciate that the team pulled that together to help us do that every day. The rest of our focus on work and culture continues to be recognized. For the second year in a row, we were named amongst Forbes' best mid-sized employers. Not that many organizations are recognized to begin with, and even fewer get recognized for 2 years in a row. And so I'm proud of the work that we're doing around that. We are focusing on, and some of the speakers brought up the idea that we are improving lives and building community. We're trying to be the best utility in the nation, and one of the ways that we will measure that is by employee engagement, and one of the ways that we measure that is by the recognition that we have from outside organizations like Forbes in this case. Speaking of employee engagement, we are in the middle of our next round of employee engagement surveys that our employees are taking. Us another 9 or 10 days left, 9 days I think, in that for them to comment and let us know what they are thinking and how things are going internally. I believe we're making really good progress as we continue to focus on developing an unbeatable team, delivering business excellence, and earning customer loyalty. Last week, we met with the staff at Moody's, which concluded a series of recent update meetings that we had with our bond rating agencies. I think we've shared this with you all before, and you've seen this from last year. Earlier, we had met with Fitch and S&P. We believe our briefing was well received, and we got pretty positive feedback from each of the groups. We don't expect any immediate changes to occur based on that, but it is our annual update to them to let them be sure that they know what is going on within our community. And I appreciate both Chair Bobby Stein and I introduced him as, because he was the chair whenever I got here, the always chair, John Baker, helped us out too. So thank you for both of you for representing the board. One of the things that I think each of the rating agencies had suggested that they wanted to be sure that we had was stability. And so we focused on the stability, and the stability of this board, the stability of the leadership team, the stability of JEA, I think is evident in everything that we do. So it takes a lot of people to tell the story about what is going on. It took a strong team to present and put together the information. We will be sharing at the Finance and Operations Committee an abbreviated version of what we presented to the rating agencies at the March 10th Finance and Operations Committee. That is one that everyone is welcome to attend. We also, in just a few minutes, we're going to have our rate hearing, and we'll have an opportunity to hear from the public on the changes that we have been talking about for several months with you in Finance, Operations Committee, External Affairs Committee, with the board through our budget process. A lot of public comments and a lot of public opportunities for us to share what we thought we were needed to do and are recommending to you to consider today. We understand and are focused on how we can help serve our customers and participate in a lot of areas to help do that. On February 9th, JEA hosted 25, and again, I say we hosted, Sheila Presley and her team hosted the Low Income Energy Issues Forum. It's a 2-day forum that eSource, which is a national research and consulting firm, brought together utilities and customer advocates to discuss affordability and solutions, legislative matters, and other topics. It is one of the areas that we focus on regularly. We've made significant improvements and changes in the way that we serve our customers. Some of that is based on conversations we have with peers, like the group that was here earlier this month. We have hired several new customer service agents to improve responsiveness when customers call or write to JEA. We've eliminated credit card, debit card convenience fees. And we're making it easier for customers to set up payment arrangements to pay off balances interest-free over time. JEA is actively participating in this and working with other areas, other community leaders. I'd like to thank Sheila and Elizabeth Paulson and Gerald Butler and their teams for helping to host and volunteer this event. You heard some comments from the IRP about the IRP. We are not reviewing in detail the IRP today. Our intent is to spend time at the committee meetings next month and at the board meeting next month to review really exactly what the people that spoke today are talking about, is to set up what our goals are and where we should head moving forward. And we want to get feedback from you all as we do that. So we're not coming in March with a firm set of plans. What we want to do is be able to talk to you about what the IRP has indicated from the science and math side of things, and then discuss the pros and cons of what those goals should be. What I can tell you, though, is that we would anticipate that after hearing your comments at the March board meeting, that in April we would come with a more firm recommendation for you to consider what the goals should be as we continue to focus on providing reliable utility services that are also at reasonable rates, protecting both the environmental stewardship, the environment of Northeast Florida, and supporting economic development. We have to balance all of those things. And I will tell you that I appreciate the input that some of the people that are here speaking have been participating with us over the last 9 or 10 months or a year, providing feedback and input. And we have heard that feedback and input. And I think that you'll see some progress. We updated you last meeting with some of the details, and we'll continue to work on that. So with that, I'll say that the agenda is a little bit lighter today because when we have a public hearing on rates, we never know exactly how long that public hearing may go. But I am pleased that you have the opportunity to hear from the public, and that we will then present and talk about the rate changes that we would recommend. I have for several months in a row now falsely and wrongly suggested we're going to have our next meeting at the new building. And I'm just going to do it again. I'm going to say we're going to have our next building at the new building. So I believe everything is in order. We are going to begin. We've begun slowly moving things over in the next 3 weeks. More will move over. We will, at this time, we expect to have the next meeting March 28th in the new building. The lobby and the general opening for the public will be April 10th. So kind of the first public thing that we have in the building will be your board meeting next month. I hope. If that changes, we'll send you a note. I'm going to say that I believe that our technology is working now. And so people can hear us on the WebEx, and so if there are, so we've got a couple of presenters that are, that will be remote, but with that, I will turn it back over.
Do you want to go back to the values?
I feel like I covered the values
Okay.
of what we,
So-
but it's your call. You all are.
The one thing, Michael, I want to say is your board for the JEA. I had a family emergency last week, and John Baker, within 2 hours, got up to speed on the Moody's presentation, and without anybody realizing this, he did a hell of a lot better job than I would ever do, but just the commitment of everybody involved here is incredible to make sure that we're making the right decisions and making sure the JEA, you know, is the best municipal utility in the country. So I just want to say that. It makes you feel good that the commitment of everything everybody's gotten going on, that John to step up quickly. Thank you. Yeah, that was impressive. Yeah, how quickly he stepped up and did a great job.
Bobby, can I ask a question?
Sure.
First of all, thank you for those nice words. It's not very hard to keep your mouth shut and look at a Zoom. I noticed that the first 4 months of this year, our financial performance is dramatically below what it was last year. And obviously, we're having a rate increase because we need it. But I would encourage us, if one of the committee meetings, finance would be the obvious one, would be to dig deep into our earnings, our financial performance, and make sure that the board is completely up to date on where we are and what impact, if we decide to have the rate increase, it will have on remedying that.
Yeah. Yes, sir. I think that's one of the points of the committee structure, and we are scheduled to review the quarterly kind of financials at the March Finance and Operations Committee, and we'll dig into exactly that. Thank you.
And the other thing, John, and to the board that needs to be looked at is, you know, we're spending a lot of capital dollars, and it'd be worth digging in. Ted and I have talked about this, but, you know, what are we planning on spending? What's our budget and what's our actual expenditures, and how is it being affected by inflation? So that's another area that we need to really dig into. So, and I think Jay and Ted are on that. Any other comments to Jay? Okay, thank you, John. Jesus, can you give us a presentation on the JEA performance update?
Sure, thank you, Bobby. Good morning. My name is Jesus Garcia. I am the Director of Customer Relationships, Application and Technology Services. My Chief Officer is Brad Kroll, and I joined the JEA team in October 2004. I have the pleasure to lead a team that is in charge of supporting, updating, and improving our IT systems that touch our JEA customers anywhere from the meter to their bills and payments, including JEA.com and phone systems. Today, performance updates includes data through January 31st. The majority of JEA's performance metrics are currently on track with few exceptions. This year's scorecard, as you know, the format focuses on highlighting the metrics that had significant movement or changes since the last update, although the full scorecard data and comments are available on the supplemental material. The first metric that I would like to bring your attention is to our sanitary sewer overflows under safety and environmental. Currently flagged at risk, we experienced 3 SSOs in the month of January due to manhole failure, a pipe failure, and accumulated debris which developed a blockage on the flow meter, causing the gravity of the main flow to overflow. We're continuing to increase our monitoring and cleaning efforts while we analyze the root cause of these SSOs to implement future preventable measures. Next, I would like to highlight a new corporate metric, estimated time to restoration under reliability, which is currently exceeding our goal for the year. This is a reflection of JEA employees continue to focus in providing JEA's customers accurate information in their outage duration. Continuing to our metrics for safety lost time incident rate under safety and environmental, there were 0 lost time incidents last month, a direct reflection of JEA's commitment to safety as a core value, an increase in communication and transparency. A review of prior year's metric performance is provided in the following slide. This information was added based on last board meeting's comments to see and track historical performance over time. As you can see here, we can see how those metrics were every month in the last 12 months when the data is available. Finally, pay for performance is currently projected at 3.5% of base salaries. Well, this concludes the monthly performance update. We're happy to answer any questions or comments that you may have.
I mean, getting back to the first slide, we're going to spend $640 million this fiscal year, and I just think we need to spend a little time looking at that. Any other comments?
Quick clarifying question about residential customer satisfaction. Can you say more about current performance versus goal? And anything we know about root causes of current
We'll defer
results?
that to Sheila.
The next update from J.D. Powers is due in 3 weeks. As of the last update, we were placed in the 4th quartile. We've made significant adjustments to our servicing model to remedy our placement, and we hope, we expect that improvement will be reflected in the next update.
That's helpful. Thank you. Appreciate it.
That's one time I agree we have to watch closely.
Thank you, Jesus.
Thank you.
Next is our rate hearing. I'd like to recess the regular Board of Directors meeting and call the rate hearing to order. Do we have comments from the public regarding the proposed rates? Benjamin?
Morning, everyone.
Morning.
How are you doing?
My name is Ben Frazier, founder-president of the Northside Coalition of Jacksonville. I would be remiss if I did not first commend you for your stellar employee engagement with this community. I'd like to commend each and every one of them, in particular Ms. Sheila, and her effort to reach out to members of the greater Jacksonville community. With that much said, allow me to tell you that I feel that JEA's latest proposal for rate increase is a classic example of economic injustice. In preparation for this meeting, I took the time to read over your literature, which amounts to public relations propaganda. Literature called Core Values told us that JEA's objective includes seeking diverse perspectives. Hogwash. Another JEA strategic objective is to have reasonable rates, but this proposal still increases costs and works a hardship on people living in apartments and small houses who use the least amount of electrical power to people who are least able to afford it. Another JEA strategic objective is to seek customer solutions. Well, we offered a solution to CFO Phillips, but it was not taken into account. You say one thing and you do another. You talk out of the side of your mouth. This room is filled with the hot air of hypocrisy. In one meeting, we were able to speak with Mr. Phillips and his gracious team of professionals. Unfortunately, this meeting turned out to be a missed opportunity for JEA and the little people to reach settlement of our differences by way of mutual concession. This proposed change from $5.50 per person to $15 in April. So why couldn't Mr. Phillips and his team meet us somewhere in the middle? Why? Because JEA is out of touch with reality, way up here in the sky, looking down on the people that you claim to represent. I'm sad to report we found that our meeting with your team to be a pointless, useless, hot air exercise that did not lead to compromise, no real attempt to resolve this conflict. In the absence of compromise, we urge you to keep the basic monthly charge where it is. So you say JEA is confronted with inflation. Well, guess what? So too are the consumers. Now we appeal to you, the board. The buck stops here. Is there not even one among you who will have the courage and the conviction to march to the beat of a different drummer? Is this matter already etched in stone? Is there not one of you who will listen to the voice of the people? In the absence of compromise, I'm here to tell you that this proposed increase in the basic monthly charge is a sham and a scam, and a classic example of voodoo economics at JEA.
Thank you, sir, for your comments. Are there any online comments or others in the audience that'd like to speak? With that, call upon Victor Blackshear.
Landon, is there someone on the public that wants to speak?
There's what?
Bruce Stevens?
Bruce.
Yeah. Just speaking, we cannot.
We can't hear him.
Bruce, we cannot hear you.
Yeah. Great data technology issues.
Yeah.
It's too bad. Maybe there's so worked out.
Can he call?
So I assume that's going to mean, Ted, can you come up here? Because if we're not going to be able to hear Victor, and we are going to call an audible and
Can Victor call in and on a microphone and make
Maybe.
his statements? I mean, it's important that we hear.
oh, we're going to hear. Ted, I'm not going to skip. It's Ted or Victor one's going to make the presentation. Yeah. We are not skipping the presentation.
But there was public
I think Marty was talking about the one guy who was,
Oh, we're going to, I was,
Call in on his mobile to a phone, or to a microphone, so that we can hear the public comment, which is really important before we move forward.
let's give them a couple more minutes.
We could low-tech it.
I think my suggestion, we hear Ted and see if they can make headway come back to the comments. So we're moving forward. So Ted, I'd go ahead and then give technology guys time to work on it, and then come back for any other comments that we have. Everybody okay with that?
Sure.
Okay.
So can we just test to see, Victor, can you speak and see if we can hear you?
Ted, I think we should go
Okay,
ahead.
all right, then I just want to make sure of that. So, obviously, I'm not Victor Blackshear, but my name is Ted Phillips. I am the CFO here at JEA, and so I will be the stand-in for Victor as we go through the short presentation we had for the rate hearing. So, as we've discussed with the board at several meetings, this is the result of our cost of service study, and the study recommended adjusting the fixed and variable rates to improve alignment with our fixed and variable cost. In addition to a revenue deficiency of $4 million that was also brought out in this cost of service study. These findings result in a recommendation of raising the basic monthly charge to recover customer-related fixed cost and offset some of the adjustments by lowering the energy charge, as you see here, for our various customer classes. And we'll just highlight on the residential customer. You see that the recommended increase is $15 from $5.50. Now, our study had recommended an increase of approximately $23, and the recommendation that we're bringing to the board is only $15. And then you can see offsetting part of that increase is the per kilowatt hour charge going from slightly more than 7 cents to slightly more than 6.5 cents. So here are examples of what a 1,000 kilowatt per month bill would look like, has looked like, and what we're projecting it to look like. So you can see October of last year with the $5.50 basic monthly charge, the energy charge of $71.71, an environmental charge of 62 cents, and a fuel charge of $79.03. Then you add taxes of $18.03, so the bill is $174.89. This same bill in January was $154.39. The only change there is the fuel charge has gone from $79.03 to $59.73. And then we are projecting with the recommended rate adjustments that the April bill would be $133.98. You see the basic monthly charge going from $5.50 to $15. The energy charge going from $71.71 to $65.46. The removal of the environmental charge, and then a decrease in the fuel charge down to $37.64, resulting in a bill of $133.98.
Any comments, questions? Go ahead.
All right. And then, so here's a recap of the rate and fee recommendations that we would ask the board to approve. We think that this will lay a foundation for a better rate structure going into the future, and will help provide a solid financial bedrock for the both electric and water system. And then our ask is, pending the outcome of the public rate hearing, that the board adopt resolution 2023-13 and the attachments included, which are the electric tariff document changes and the water and sewer tariff document changes. Be happy to try to answer any questions you may have.
And
We
Ted,
have-
I'm sorry, I cautiously say that I think that we're back, so once we get done with some of the questions here, then we'll have the opportunity for them to speak. I said it cautiously.
Go ahead, Maury.
We have, as Jay mentioned, socialized this a lot through lots of committees. So I don't want us to not ask the same questions that we've been asking. So I'm going to ask some of the questions I've asked before in case there's somebody listening for the first time. When was the last time the base rate was adjusted and reviewed?
I'm thinking that was
2 years ago, we we reviewed it, made an adjustment on the rates. But the structure, which is the main part of this, has been way back, 2000.
Yeah, the basic monthly charge has not been changed.
In the late 2008, 9, 10, is that when, do you know? I'm looking at Julie because she's.
The basic monthly charge, the $5, was early 90s.
Oh.
So.
A very long
20
time.
years.
So that, I'm going to encourage us to continue, which y'all have committed to me, that we'll review the base rate charge on an annual basis going forward, because it is really hard for the consumer to go from a base rate charge to a different rate if we haven't been increasing it over a period of time, because it does feel like a big increase. I think the issue is that we haven't reviewed it in a very long time. I was pleased to see the new data in the performance summary that has the graph that illustrates the fuel cost. So the reason I've been comfortable with this is the illustration of the consumer's impact to the base rate is coming at a great time because the fuel charge is going to go down. So the hope is that this will not impact the consumer's pocket. And the data that you just shared in the new performance scorecard helps illustrate that that is indeed going to happen. So thank you. Thank you for that. I would encourage us, and Sheila, you know, it might come through your group with the low-income group that you just met. As I understand it, that there is no rate in the country that addresses a consumer that may be lower income than another. Jay and I have talked about that, and I just think that we should socialize that more. We can't solve it today, but I would love to see what, if anything, we can do legally or with some type of best practice that's out there in the future. So I'm comfortable with what is presented here based on the fuel charges, but I would challenge us to review it annually so that we don't have this type of long gap. And to not give up on the fact that there should be something we can do in the future to address the citizens who might be lower income.
Thank you. I think those are absolutely the things that we have committed to, and we'll keep on doing, not only for electric, but also for our other systems, and do a regular full-blown cost of service analysis every few years to be sure that we're staying on top of this. We should not wait years to make adjustments and changes.
50 cents a year over year is different than $10 after a long period of time.
We
And I am also going to add, sorry, we in finance have really wanted to dig in, not, John, just to the revenue side of what we're doing, but the actual operating expenses. And I think that we've got that on the agenda for the next Finance and Audit Committee, Mr. Chair of that committee, because we really need to dig into our operating expenses as well.
Any other comments, John?
Ted explained to me this is a big jump. And a different structure. It's not so much a big jump for 1,000 kWh customer, but as Mr. Frazier points out, for apartment dwellers and small, it hurts. Money is fungible. Why is it so important that we raise the fix and then lower the variable? Is it, are we bound by something that says that we need to, the cost of service needs to reflect the fixed and the variable?
So there are certain costs that we have, whether a customer uses 1 kilowatt hour a month or 5,000, 10,000 kilowatt hours a month, okay? There's the cost of the meter, right, and maintaining that meter, and the cost of billing that customer, and those associated costs. And it is best practice to try to capture as much of that cost as you can. So one of the things I like to use is a cell phone example. So some of you may remember when cell phones first came out, everything was on a usage basis, right? You signed up for a plan and you received so many minutes of talk time on your phone that month. And as long as you stayed within that, there was not a problem. But then when you went over, there were penalties, and people didn't like the penalties, right? And the phone companies came back and said, basically, almost all of our costs are fixed, right? It doesn't matter whether you talk on the phone for an hour or if you talk on the phone for 100 hours in a month. We have to have the same infrastructure in place to support that. And so they came, and basically now most cell phone plans are fixed, right? You pay for whatever a month that the provider charges because of those fixed costs. That's what we're trying to do with our bill. So that's why the fuel cost is a pass-through, and that's why we've changed that to a pass-through each month, so that it is more reflective, more transparent of what those costs really are to us, and then, sending that signal back to the customer. Hope that answers your question.
It does, but it doesn't satisfy my concern.
Okay. Well, let me.
And I think your suggestion of let's look at it through a lens of a low income person and see if there's not something we can do about it. Because if it's just doing it because of accounting rules, I'm not sure I go for that.
Yeah, I think it's more than accounting rules. It provides us a stability in our revenue that will allow us to serve customers for long term. It is similar to what we did on the water side. We did this years ago, and we have significantly more stable revenue coming in on water than we do on electric. Electric is up and down based on weather. Our costs are generally fixed. So it's not an accounting standard so much as a recovery of the cost to be able to provide for our customers. We also, because we are reducing the energy charge at the same time, it is, even for small users, it's a relatively small increase. So a low-income user that's in a small house that's using a little bit of electricity may see a $3 or $4 increase, not the full $10 increase, because they also are seeing a reduction in the energy charge. So we were thoughtful about how we considered it. We were not ignoring those facts. So I wouldn't call it an accounting change. Ted explained it as some parallels to other utilities, other types of utilities. For us, it is the stability that we need to be able to plan for long-term revenue. We will see, as we see energy efficiency gains, people still are paying an energy charge, so they'll be able to still continue to control what their cost is. But we will see increases as we see more customers come on that will provide us stability long term. Our small users will see a slight percentage increase, not a $10 increase, because we are balancing both sides of those.
Jay, I know it's because I couldn't understand the rate documents as well, but in water, it looked like we also raised the fixed part, but we did, and like 24%. And I don't see where we cut the usage. Did we also cut the variable part at all, or are we really going up 24% on our water bill?
You're talking about the water and sewer tariff documents in today's, let me pull that up and look, do you?
So the only change, and Victor, if you can text me if I'm wrong on this, but was that we took out the conservation fee and rolled that into the usage fee. So that was the only change that we were proposing on water and sewer.
So it didn't really go up 20?
No, it didn't.
There was no.
It was a net revenue neutral. Now, one thing I would, so a few minutes ago, you brought up the point that we needed to look at our revenues at the next F&O committee. So one of the reasons that revenues are down this year, around 3 or 4%, is based on usage, which is based on weather. And by having a more stable monthly fixed cost, that will make us less susceptible to the weather changes. And so, you know, we don't want to be hoping for cold winters and hot summers for our revenue base, while that is also an impact to our customers. And then also, it should be noted that not every customer that lives in a smaller home or smaller apartment is also a low usage, because the insulation and the age of the structure and those things also play very much into how much that person's bill ends up being.
Just clarify, the change on the water is an environmental charge, not a conservation charge.
Excuse me.
But everything else is the same
I'm sorry.
and true. That's
Glad to hear that.
the other thing that we didn't touch on, but we will, when we get back into the regular meeting, we will show you a couple of charts on plant Vogel, and in large part, the change for the change on the rate structure is what we've just talked about. There's a slight increase, and that slight increase, 3% of that base charge, is in large part tied to the cost of Vogel. That was a decision made 15 years ago, and we are addressing the need to be able to recover the cost to be able to serve our customers. Good news is that will be carbon-free energy, which is part of the other things we heard today. It is an example of the balance.
That number's pretty, what's the Vogel number that once it turns on would be on unit 3 and then unit 4?
208 megawatts, $200 million.
So that is, yeah.
It's substantial. It's a big impact, and we've got to be prepared for that to be able to continue to serve our customers. I think that Dr. Faison may have a question online.
I do. Can you all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Can you all hear?
For the moment, yes, sir.
Okay, I apologize. This question may have been asked. I've been having issues with the audio this morning, but I kind of wanted to ask why we didn't consider $10 change over a course of year versus kind of a draconian jump in 1 year. I heard some discussion maybe kind of going in and out, and I understand some of the exigencies around our revenues. You know, might we be able to achieve that same end if there over a rate change that is not as draconian and has the level of impact to the customer over, you know, the course of 2 or 3 years?
At the risk of pushing back, I wouldn't call this draconian. I think this is a thoughtful increase that we put in place in order to provide stability for the long haul. I do understand what we heard from the public earlier, that it will have a slightly larger increase on some customers than others, but I believe in our low income areas, I think that we will see that is going to be on average less than a $4 a month increase, because we are decreasing the energy charge at the same time. So we were trying to balance the cost of service study, which is closer to the accounting standard. If it's we talk about the cost of service and a rate change being a little bit of art and science. The science part of this says that this charge should be $23 and something. We're recommending $15, in part to address, Dr. Faison, what you were asking is how do we make this more reasonable increase on the fixed charge, rather than going to what the science side and the math side says go to the full $23. And I think that's a sign that we were trying to be a little bit more thoughtful and actually taking into account our strategic objectives and our values, regardless of what might have been said.
Well, Jay, I agree with you there, but I think, you know, to your point, and I'm gonna push back a little bit, I think draconian is subjective. What may be reasonable to me or you may not be as reasonable to our customers per what we're hearing this morning. Okay, my question was just to possible things there over a course of time versus at one time. So, but I hear your explanation.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other comments, Tom?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. Just a comment and a question. So the comment is I want to echo Board Member Lenahan's assertion that it would be prudent to assess annually and to incrementally adjust as needed, so that there isn't, you know, a couple years that pass and then something that is more difficult to reconcile. I've seen a corollary with organizations that have, you know, in their best interests have held benefits expenses flat for 3 or 4 years and then find themselves in a position of needing to adjust, and it's always difficult to reconcile. And so as the example was, you know, 50 cents a year versus, you know, something larger after the course of a couple of years is I think a prudent course of action. So I want to echo that assertion. The question, and I will preface this by saying if this has been shared and I didn't see it in a committee meeting or I missed it, apologize. But from a transparency perspective, has there been just a simple frequency distribution of utilization and the net impact, regardless of fixed or variable, the net impact of this, so that we can see, based on the utilization bands and the net impact, that we just test whether there is an unintended disproportionate impact on any one band or at any end of the utilization continuum?
Yeah, we did do some analysis on what it meant for small homes and for low income, and because we're offsetting the increase in the fixed charge with the decrease on the energy side, we did not see a disproportionately change. It's if it's a less than 1,000 square foot home, we think the average increase will be 2 or 3%. In some of the larger homes, there will be a decrease because of the way that the math works, and so there's a break point somewhere in the 1,800 kilowatt hour, 1,900 kilowatt hour range where it changes over. So if it's less than that, there'll be a slight increase, and if it's more than that, it'll be a slight decrease.
Just trying to reconcile that from an equity perspective.
Yes, it's that again, it's part of the reason that we tried to take both pieces of this equation and did not go to the full cost of service study analysis that said $23. We're still in the reasonable reasonable range with other utilities in the area, and I think we balanced those things to be sure that we weren't going too far in our process.
Rick?
Thank you, Bobby. Looking at the chart we were shown, included the variable cost of the energy cost, which really needs to be irrelevant from this. And you really look at that 1,000 kilowatt hour person, and it's going up $3.25. The question is, what percentage of our customers are under that 1,000 kilowatt hours? I mean, is it a lot? Is it a few? Is it, it seems, somewhat of an arbitrary number to base it on. But just trying to understand what does a small apartment use? What does and so forth.
That is a good question. I think we do have some analysis on that showed what the percentages were. If you'll go back one slide, 2 slides. So the reason we show the both pieces of this, I think you're right. The base charge for the average customer, which is 1,000. It wasn't arbitrary. That's our average customer is 1,000 kilowatt hours, and that is, even with the base charge, decreasing over that time. We put the fuel charge in because it is an impact, and we are managing that as well. So last year we saved over $100 million in the hedging program, again, as an effort to be able to be sure that we're covering not just small and lower income, small homes and lower income, but all of our customers see that value. And so we were trying to show that both of them are important. Both pieces of that equation are important. We can get you a distribution of where our customers fall on that chart. That would not be a problem.
Joe, Rick, do you have any follow-ups?
No, just I think understanding what Tom's question was earlier about the distribution and so forth, I think would be helpful.
Yep.
Yeah, and I just say some great points brought up by the public and then around the table here. And I will say I think but I'm satisfied with the transparency that's been throughout this whole process. We've been talking about this at committee, I believe since November, if I remember right, but I think it's just very important to continue that the public understands committee meetings are open for them to join however they can or whatever, and encourage them to do it so that they can have the good situational awareness of what proposals are eventually being looked at and then come to eventual rate hearings or whatever. But I personally am very satisfied with the transparency we've had throughout this process. I just want to say that.
Any other comments? Ed, do you have any further?
So I would be remiss if I didn't thank Victor Blackshear and his staff on all the hard work that they've put in over the last year or so on this. I do think, is there public comments?
I think there's
still?
another public comment.
Yeah, there is.
I think,
I wanted
but I wanted to thank my staff for all the hard work that they did in helping put the cost of service study together and then bringing these rate recommendations to the board.
Are we gonna try Mr. Stevens again, or I also think we have his comments that we can read.
I think we should try to get Mr. Stevens to talk.
Okay, Mr. Stevens.
If not, we'll read them.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, my name is Bruce Stevens, and my wife and I are residential JE customers, and I'd like to share how the proposed rate adjustments for electric service would affect us. And I referenced the page 17 of the board materials, fiscal year 23 residential rate recommendations, which you've already referred to. It kind of shows how different cases affect different people. So we are a small energy user. We only average 440 kilowatt hours a month. And with this proposed rate change, we would pay more, about 11.4%. Secondly, and maybe most importantly that hardly anybody's talking about, we just had a solar PV system installed in our house. And before committing to purchase it, I analyzed it the best I could to see if this investment would make financial sense for us. And I calculated that our solar system would save us about $400 per year in energy costs. Now JEA is wanting to move the goalposts, so to speak. And the way they're moving the goalposts is the basic monthly charge going from $550 to $15 is an increase of $950 per month. Times 12 months, that is $114 a year. And that's more than I would pay because my solar system cannot help with that cost. Everybody pays that. So basically, I'm saving 28% less per year. Instead of saving I'm now saving $286. And that changes my payback period from something that's reasonable to something that is no longer financially viable for me. The second part of my comment would be, and I sent these comments in writing to Melissa, so if you guys want to look at the calculation, you're welcome to. JEA wants to lower the energy charge per kilowatt hour by almost 9%. And so every kilowatt hour that we avoid paying with our solar system, we're going to save even less. And I'm just comparing the new rate structure to the old one. And so we would save even less because of that. So the combined effect of the monthly charge going up a whopping 173% and lowering the energy charge by 9% would be to punish those whose consumption is in the lower range and reward the big users. The other really important effect would be to discourage someone from investing in solar or any other energy efficiency or any energy savings project. So my final comment is it looks like JEA may not be overtly trying to dissuade people from investing in these projects or solar, but that is the effect, and the numbers don't lie. That's my comment. Thank you.
Respond?
Well, I appreciate your comments, and it is absolutely not overt or any other type of effort to try to dissuade that. There still is energy charge. There still is the savings that you would see on the energy and the fuel charge along the way. We don't want to raise our energy charge in a way that would cause a lot of customers to have to pay substantially more in order for a few customers to be able to save on solar. So that's a bigger and longer philosophical debate about that.
Excuse me, that is not looking at it correctly. If what the change that you're making is discouraging all customers from energy conservation. So you have changed the burden of these costs to the low rate users instead of the higher rate users or the medium rate users even. You have discouraged in any way, shape, or form any energy conservation or solar projects. It's no longer viable.
Thank you. The average customer that is less than $25,000 income uses 990 kilowatt hours, which answers part of the question. So our average low-income customer looks very similar to our average overall customer, very nearly the 1,000 kilowatt hours, and those customers will see the rate decrease that we've talked about here because of the fuel charge primarily, because we're managing that as well. So I appreciate the public comment and then all of your support and the idea that it has been a transparent and a conversation that we will continue to have. I think we have another comment.
We do. This is Landon. Mike, have your hand raised and send us a message that you...
Yes, I do. Can you hear me okay?
We can.
Okay, great. So hello, everyone. My name is Mike Ludwig. I'm a proud member of the Northside Coalition of Jacksonville. I'm asking you to reject this rate increase proposal because it is unjust, it's unreasonable, and is also unfriendly to the environment. I urge you to keep the basic monthly charge at $550. Reinstate the conservation charge to impact higher electricity users. And then you can go back and look at the base charge to make up the difference to meet your adjustment goal if you need to. So I forwarded to you all an article from Consumer Reports that you may be familiar with. Melissa has it. It highlights why increasing the basic monthly charge is not a good idea. Number one, low usage customers are hit the hardest, as has already been mentioned. Number two, fixed charges disproportionately impact low-income customers. In nearly every state, low-income customers consume less electricity than other residential customers on average. And then number three, it results in reduced incentives for energy efficiency, which can raise costs for all consumers. So I urge you to reinstate the residential conservation charge, as you call it, like FP&L has, in order to charge a higher rate to those who use more electricity. Since an average household uses about 1,000 kilowatt hours a month, this charge would have minimal impact on those who use less electricity and should further promote conservation for others. An example could be to lower the current conservation threshold to 1,500 kilowatt hours a month and increase that rate by a penny or some higher level in order to generate significantly more revenue than this charge does currently. Because in your current proposal, you're going to get rid of that conservation charge, and that really doesn't seem to make much sense. So I hope you'll consider these suggestions as the way to minimize the impact on those least able to pay, while at the same time encouraging energy conservation. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Any other comments?
Yes, we have Sarah. Sarah, you have raised your hand. Sarah, we are unable to hear you, but we do see that you've unmuted your mic.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Hi. Sorry about that. I seem to have the meeting running in a couple of windows to be able to hear the audio. So thank you so much for allowing me to speak today. I really appreciate you taking public comment, especially as a publicly owned utility. It's a crucial part of the functioning of the utility in the community. So I did submit the comment over text, but I believe to have it on record, I have to make it audible. So I'll just echo that comment that I wrote. So it concerns me that the fixed rate is increasing while the variable rate decreases. From simple economics, that would incentivize an increase in total energy use per customer, as several other public commenters have also noted. And so that would thus increase JEA's fixed costs, which is something that I believe has been mentioned a couple of times as a reason for the rate change is JEA's fixed costs need to be covered. And so if you're increasing the total energy demand in a city by incentivizing the total energy use, then you're going to need more power plants to be built. And more power plants to be built means more fixed costs. So for me, that does not seem to go along with the analogy of the phone company evolution. And so this does not seem to achieve the stated goal of providing stability for the long term. And this also, it benefits large energy users. As you mentioned, larger homes with bigger square foot will see an actual decrease in their energy bill, while people with smaller homes will see an increase. And it was mentioned that smaller homes won't be impacted very much. Well, as someone who grew up low income, I can tell you $3.50 difference a month actually does make a big difference in someone's life. In my home, we dramatically guarded our energy use. And when my mom got remarried, the energy bills skyrocketed and we did not know why. So we had a JEA representative come out to our home and analyze our energy use. And he looked at our past bills and he told us that this was evidence of somebody who was really guarding their energy supply. So I do want to note that if people are low income, they are watching their energy supply and they are watching their energy prices every single month. And so for a variable decrease to happen while a fixed rate increase happens, this would not work for somebody who is very guarding their energy supply to try to keep their bills low. So I do think that you are that this rate increase or this rate change would negatively impact a large proportion of JEA's customers.
Sarah, thank you for your comments. Jay, do you want to respond?
No, I appreciate your comments, though. Thank you.
Any other comments?
This is Lane. I do not see any other raised hands from the audience.
So with that, call for a motion to approve the proposed electric, water, and wastewater rates.
Move the motion.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those against? With that, we approve. Seeing that another business of the rate hearing is adjourned and the regular JEA board meeting is reconvened and called to order. So with that, move to the consent agenda.
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Government relations update, Laura.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Thank you for letting me bring you a short update about legislation and policy discussions unfolding 2 hours to the east in Tallahassee. This year, as you may know, the legislature is in session from March to May under the leadership of Speaker Paul Renner. Lawmakers have been very active since December in public committee meetings. We're tracking a few dozen issues. I promise not to go through all few dozen today, but I do want to highlight one important area for you. A senior member of the House leadership team has raised questions about municipal utilities, and his questions focus on two areas. Municipal utilities service to extraterritorial customers and how those customers are represented on governing bodies. His second set of questions focus on municipal utilities and revenue transfers to general funds. So there have already been a few hearings on these topics, and we were told late last week to expect a bill or bills very soon. So why is this taking place? Florida is a big state. There are 33 municipal electric utilities. There are dozens of municipal water and wastewater utilities. So, of course, from time to time, some of those systems will have differences of opinion with local stakeholders. And as we saw last session, 2022, even big investor-owned utilities or Fortune 500 companies can experience the same. So as JEA, we're watching this municipal utility discussion quite closely. The legislative language in the bill or the bills is not yet available. We understand it's in the drafting office over in Tallahassee. But listening to these discussions, even without looking at the language, we know our position. JEA represents all our customers. We strive to treat them fairly, whether that's inside the Duval County lines or in our neighboring county service territory. We do transfer funds to the city at an agreed upon rate, and we work in close partnership with the city on core services, economic development, resilience, and building community. A one-size-fits-all solution from Tallahassee isn't needed, and it won't fit here. And from what we can see as it comes together, it could have many unintended negative consequences for our community. You might ask, too, if we think we know how this situation is coming together, why am I flagging it for you today? Behind the curtain, we see the shadowy influence of those who fundamentally do not believe that utilities are a legitimate function of government and who strongly prefer a for-profit model for fundamental services such as reliable electricity and clean water. We had some of this discussion last Friday when we hosted our Northeast Florida delegation here. Mr. Morales, thank you for attending that event. And I want to thank our government relations team as well. They're doing a great job representing JEA and telling the JEA story about transparency, strong government, responsibility to keep the finances strong, and they tell the story of our positive partnerships with Duval, St. Johns, Nassau, and Clay counties. So we're going to keep an eye on this set of developments and keep you as the board updated through our committees and upcoming meetings. And we thank the leadership from the, we are thankful for the leadership from the board, thankful for our partnership with our city council, and especially for the strong contributions of our 2,000 plus employees. We look at this conversation in Tallahassee and say, well, we're going to keep building community and creating value for Northeast Florida. I'm happy to take any questions.
Questions?
Something to watch.
Thank you, Laura. Vogel update.
More good news.
All look forward to at the end of this meeting every month. Good morning, Chair and board members. I'm Jody Brooks, the CAO here at JEA, to give the latest on the plant Vogel. Have you ever run a very long race at like the Gate River Run that's going to be run this weekend? The last mile is always the hardest. I reported last month that Unit 3 was delayed until at least April and no change in the schedule announced in Unit 4. Well, we're in that last mile. On February 16th, the Southern Company, in their 10K filing, revised the operational schedule to having Unit 3 come online May or June of 2023. And they shifted the projected date of service for Unit 4 to be the fourth quarter 2023 or the first quarter of 2024. And on the slide, it shows the justifications and the reasonings on the 10K that was filed by Georgia Southern on February 16th. We're in the last mile. We can see the finish line, and again, it's that last mile. And every time I come here and I say, we're getting closer, but it seems like they're moving the finish line out again. But I think we're getting to the finish line. We haven't discussed in a while the cost of this important clean energy source in our energy mix. We heard today about economic development, about clean energy. With the units 3 and 4, once they become operational, we're going to get approximately 12% or 12.1% of our energy mix from a clean energy source. We did put together this forecast that shows the estimated cost over the life of the 20-year project. We had started paying debt service starting in 2016 that you'll see will increase starting in 2023. And then the added green lines, the O&M and the administrative, general costs, taxes, and other things. But you'll see, Jay had mentioned earlier about $200 million a year for the life of the project, starting once both units are operational in 2024, fingers crossed. Then you'll see there's a little bit of a dip on the further side on the contingency credits for some of the prepay that's occurred over time. And that's about the only update that I have for Plant Vogel. And I don't know if you have questions regarding the cost or the shift in the schedule, but that's where we're at today.
It's the hardest part of the presentation is to actually conclude something that keeps moving like that. I think this is the slide we wanted to share is to make the point that we have had rate changes over the last several years in order to help offset some of this cost, because the decision made in 2008 to enter into this and the increased cost and the increased time means that we have to be able to fund and pay for that this will be a significant increase in fixed costs that is going to come to us. And it begins when at commercial operations, it increases dramatically. Now, we will also celebrate that it is clean energy, and that's important for us. So thank you, Jody. The chart, we just wanted you to see the chart again.
Right, and I don't know if there's any question, but in 2016, we started preparing. And you'll see there's a dip in 2036 after the 20 years, the debt service starts declining. And that's part of again, the things that we have done to set us up to be able to pay for Plant Vogtle. We have taken steps to ensure that we've got the ability to do it.
I'll remind you that the last mile of the Gate River Run is up a very big bridge. So it's the longest, hardest mile, having run that darn thing before. So just keep plugging.
I will be at the water station for the first water station for the first mile, so everybody's still in good point. And I did want to wish our chairman a happy birthday on Saturday.
Oh, nice.
But remember, though, the last half mile is downhill.
Right, right. I just can't get over the.
You did hear me say I'm not manning the water station? Yeah. I'm not running it.
Is there any old or other new business?
If you don't mind, Mr. Chair, I wanted to give you just a brief update. It doesn't really fit into any committee, but Sheila and her team and I made a commitment at the retreat last year that we would work on weatherization. I really am grateful to Sheila and her team. We have begun conversations in the East community, and we are working towards a pilot in the coming, I'm going to be really optimistic and say weeks. It may take a little bit longer than that, but we are really looking at this as a public-private partnership, and we don't have the ability to raise funds, so I'm raising funds to help with the pilot. And just am very appreciative of all the work that the JEA has done. And I think this pilot can be used throughout our community to help folks weatherize their homes. That's the goal.
That's awesome, Marty, and thanks for all the work that you've done. Just in closing, my comments are that, this rate hearing went through a lot of processes and a lot of committee meetings and went through a lot of hard thought. And I think for one of the things that this management team is done is taken old issues that were significant and facing new issues that are going to be significant, and want to compliment Jay and your team for what you're doing to make us the top utility in the country. And also, Councilman Boland, just want to say that these board members have committed a lot of time and effort to make sure that you have a stable JEA and you have best-in-class JEA, and just to see and touch what they've done makes all of us proud. So I just want to say thank you to the board members. Tom, it's great to have you back.
Thank you,
Yes.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, and with that, adjourn the meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.